We liked it so much the first time we decided to do it again. It's time to reconstitute, regenerate the light in another lighthouse around Lake Champlain. For those who are regular viewers to our little corner program with Calvin and I, you might recall back in August when we went to the Windmill Point Lighthouse across from Rouse's Point and enjoyed the first of what we hope will be 5 nice ceremonies where lighthouses around Lake Champlain are relit. This one will be lit at dusk tonight. What is the date today? The 5th. The 5th of October 2002. This one will be lit at dusk for the first time in 69 years. This one, like the last one we visited at Windmill Point, is owned by Lockwood Clark and Rob and their families. And I understand, according to a good newspaper article in the Press Republican by Jeff Myers earlier this week, that it's the building here is occupied by Lucky's sister. This is a nice crowd. This is a beautiful fall day. Foliage a little bit behind where it has been in years past, but quite a large number of people have been coming here. Today we saw actually had people parking cars as we came in. And I know there were a couple hundred people at least that visited the last lighting. I should tell our viewers, in case they missed the last program, that this is part of a series where these lighthouses, most of them built in the mid-1800s, were decommissioned in the 1930s for the most part. And the lights in the lighthouses were replaced by the lights on steel towers. And if you watched the other program, you saw that the light was taken from the steel tower and placed back into the lighthouse itself, and that's what's happening now. United States Coast Guard very much involved in these projects, and 4 of the 5 lighthouses to be relit around Lake Champlain are privately owned. Lucky and his family own these 2, the one on Windmill Point and the one here in Isle of Motte. Next will be Cumberland Head, then Valcour, and then Split Rock down near Essex, in Essex County, New York. Who doesn't have a special spot in their heart for lighthouses? We've talked about it before. Calvin and I have visited some lighthouses. My family and myself have visited quite a few lighthouses, mostly on the East Coast, in various other states, and a few on the West Coast of our great United States. But there is something charming about it. Also, we've learned, according to the national media over the last week or so, that the United States government is giving away a few lighthouses around the country to people who will agree to maintain them. How'd you like to live in a White House, not a White House, a lighthouse? Many people would, I guess, but they probably don't realize what it takes to reconstitute and rebuild them and refurbish them. You have to remember that many of these lighthouses are more than 150 years old and have been around for a long, long time. And I understand that the Clarks have spent at least the last year refurbishing these lighthouses to get them. Oh, no. Grapes, Judy. Oh, baby. And these are the non-toxic kind, right? So, but if I eat one and
Pits.
Oh, I don't care about pits. I was going to say if I eat one and keel over, it'll be a kind of an exclusive program. What do you think, Cal? Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah, nice crowd here today. I think a lot of people who wanted to be at that first one, there were a lot of people there, but a lot of people wanted to be there, missed it, and probably made up their mind they weren't going to miss this one.
And the weatherman held off 20 minutes ago as I rounded the corner at Miners heading toward Calvin's house on the Ridge Road in Champlain. The rain hit the windshield by the old Miner schoolhouse, and I said, uh-oh. Boy, these grapes.
Oh, we won't tell Rob and Lucky and Claire that you
no, took 5 of their grapes.
Wander over and find Rob.
All right, let's go over and find somebody. We've got a nice group of people who are here tonight. Some have their winter coats on, and others, like Calvin and myself, have light jackets, but I see he brought the winter jacket
winter coat
inside.
is in the car.
What a beautiful spot with the flags.
Yeah, we've got
Blowing a
cannon.
very
It looks like
stiff
somebody
breeze.
brought in a cannon here. So
Oh, yeah, let's fire that baby. Yeah, what a beautiful spot this is. And never having been down this road. How are you? How are you? Great to see you, my friend.
Hey, you made it.
Of course, we made it. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I got a nice picture to show you guys here. These fine people from our neighbors down the road there took that for us.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
When did you take it? How recently?
It's probably 12, 13 years ago. It's before the wall.
Rob
Oh.
said he thought it was 93, but
Yeah, I
it was
just-
pre-95.
What are your names?
Jim and Nancy Henry.
Hi,
We
Jim
live
and
right
Nancy.
down here in the
Thank you so much.
Shrine Camp number 9.
He's being modest. This is the Mad River Canoe Man. That's
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, we've made a few boats in our time.
I blew his
Have you really?
cover.
You know, I saw a nice handmade double-ended, I don't know if you'd call it a skiff or a canoe. It was had a very broad beam on the top of the car heading down here.
Guide boat, probably,
Probably
maybe.
a guide boat.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
made it.
No, well, I do wood strips for masters.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and then we make our molds from those and then put those in production.
That's great. Have you always lived right nearby?
We've had this camp since 74.
73 or 74, yeah.
74,
When the kids were
little.
knee-high still.
Isn't it a fabulous place to live?
Actually,
Sure is.
Lucky used to come down and pick up the kids and bring them up here and show them the fox den underneath the cottage.
Was
and the
there
little-
really?
and the little
You
baby
gotta be
fox that
kidding.
come out.
And the kids are 29 and 27 now.
I know all about it. With 14 great-grandchildren, I know all about it.
Yeah.
So how did you just picked the perfect spot and snapped the picture? Did
Well,
you take it or did she
Jim
take
did.
it?
I did.
Okay.
I waited until the sun was shining in the windows, and was out in a boat, and
Oh,
got
you
the
were in a boat.
yeah, so it got the reflection of the sun in the windows.
Isn't that fabulous? Once in a lifetime shot and then had it blown up for these guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is very impressive here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Were you at the last lighting over at
No, we
Windmill
weren't.
Point?
We missed that.
We missed that one,
We
unfortunately.
figured that's what happened, Calvin and I, that people saw that program or heard about it and said, we're not missing the next one. That was impressive. That lighthouse is at least twice as tall as this one.
Yeah. We can
with
see that
beautiful
one from
circular
our
stone.
cottage.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, right out the side window.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Well, this is wonderful. As I said just a few moments ago when I was starting the program, who doesn't have a special place in their hearts for lighthouses? How can you help
Right.
it? I think it's built in this,
They're beautiful.
so
Yeah.
much a
Yeah.
part of our nation and world history.
Yep.
Did you ever visit lighthouses as a kid?
My mother actually rented an island in Maine that had a lighthouse on it when I was in college. And I've been, the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse? That's another one. That's another beauty. And
It's about as good as
I
it
dove
gets
I
right
dove
there.
off a Nubble Lighthouse when I was in college. So
Did you really?
I've got a
Tell those stories.
No, I meant scuba diving, not dive.
Oh, not off the top.
I have some. But this is new to me, a freshwater lighthouse growing up near the coast, why I've always associated them with, the ocean. And Lake Champlain, it's taken me a while to realize that they don't have tides here,
Not very big ones.
Not
I guess
big
a couple water has a tide, but certainly not
I
like
guess
you.
we did yesterday with the wind. Had quite a wind
Yeah,
here.
just-
Wasn't that we saw some of the pictures on Channel 5 of the ferries trying to get across, and a few of them had to turn back,
Yeah.
and they were splashing over the bows. That makes it a kind of an interesting ride.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But Lake Champlain is a unique and wonderful place, and I'm sure you guys know if you've lived here for a long time, and it's especially pleasing for me to see these old lighthouses being recommissioned with lights on the top.
I know.
This one, after 69 years, the light finally comes back.
Yep.
And isn't that neat?
It's just incredible.
So many wonderful stories about families that grew up in lighthouse buildings all over the United States. It's so much fun to be here today and to see so many people, to have singers and a stand-up bass violin and all kinds of stuff. Hey, Rob,
Hey,
this is so cool.
well, hey, we're glad that the weather's holding together. I mean, we had a chance of double hurricane almost, but between Lily and the other one there. that just went through, you know, and we'd like to have done it sooner, but obviously there's only so much. You guys have been over to Windmill and you saw the work that was involved there. Well, we did double duty, as you know, so.
Well, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Whose birthday tomorrow?
My dad's birthday, yeah.
He's going to be 52 tomorrow,
Yeah.
right?
39 like Jack Benny.
Well, I saw in the newspaper that typographical error that said his father bought this lighthouse
Yeah,
in
you saw that.
1849. I said to Kelvin, wait a minute.
We look pretty good for 100-some-year-old people, don't we?
Well, you know, last time was a kick, and this time, Rob, is going to be even better. Look at the crowds you drew in here.
Well, yeah.
It's like the county fair here tonight.
Almost, yeah. Well, we had a chance to, you know, put out the word a little better. And we're doing a lot of the ceremony, myself and Bob McHugh and Art Cohen, of course, again, too. And the Coast Guard's part is not going to be as great. We're going to have the two guys from Burlington that are going to be here to represent them, and hopefully some Coast Guard auxiliary people. But the big guys from Boston aren't coming up. They have Homeland Security and a lot of other affairs to attend to.
There are a few important things going on in our nation
and
these days.
We're in a heightened state of security, you know, because of the pending war over there in Iran, Iraq, and all that sort of thing. So,
but you know what?
But at least we have some reps here tonight.
We
from
think
the Coast
this is
Guard.
pretty important too.
Well,
I didn't realize that there was a wonderful bell on a tower
Oh
here.
yeah,
Isn't that amazing?
Well, we got a little something extra to look at and enjoy.
So now, is it true that is it your aunt that's living here
Yeah,
now?
my dad's sister. Yeah.
What's her name?
Erica Bear. Yeah.
And she's been here for a while.
She's been here since about, well, 83. Her husband died in 1981, and it was her husband was the man that was my uncle at Windmill Point, who became my uncle after we bought the place. I don't know. I guess you guys probably hadn't heard that story yet.
No.
But my dad was mowing the lawn one day over here, and as you can see, and kind of a dark day, but that marble on the old causeway out there on the Rutland Railroad was shining, and it caught his attention. And he had just gotten married, and my mom had never been out there, and my grandfather was still alive at that time, and they said, you know, let's go for a nice ride. That was a Sunday. Let's go for a nice Sunday drive and go up and see the Windmill Point area. And they didn't really plan to go to the lighthouse. It was just, you know, something else out there. And when they got to that old railroad, my grandfather spoke up and said, why don't you bring Claire out and show her, you know, the lighthouse. So when they got there was no houses at all. It was completely rural and not like it is today. They got out there, and the man came down from the gate, and Dad said, oh boy, he said, I bet you we can't get in there. We probably don't want anybody bothering them. And the guy spoke up and he said, hey, are you the people that have come to buy the lighthouse? Dad said, no, we're from the Isle of Motte Lighthouse. Can we look around? And they said, sure. He says, come on in. We're glad to have you. So they looked the place all over. And to make a long story short, they had an option to buy that lighthouse before they left. And of course, the man, his name was Mr. Emil Bear. He felt very bad about it because his wife loved the place and she was sick, and they lived down in Thompson, Connecticut. And it was a long haul up here, you know, and especially with her being sick. And it was her wish that it be sold locally to somebody that could care for it, you know, because they couldn't because of the distance. They had a chance to sell it to people in Boston and other places, but they wanted somebody locally to buy that lighthouse. So my dad knew that he felt really bad about, you know, having to sell that lighthouse. And, you know, Dad said, listen, I'll make you an offer. He says, anytime you want to come up and spend some time with your family, it won't cost you anything. You come up and you enjoy the place. So a couple of years later, his wife died, and he came up on a Memorial Day weekend. And he said, Mr. Clark, you remember me? He said, I sure do. He says, is that offer still good that you made me to, you know, to come to the lighthouse at some point? And he said, it sure is. So they came up, they had a great time. And in the meantime, he took a shine to my aunt and ended up marrying her and became my uncle in 1968.
Yeah. What a wonderful story.
Yes.
So this lighthouse on the Isle of Motte has been in your family since the late 1940s.
49, right.
Now, how much work has it been to get ready for this day? Tell me about it.
Monumental. I mean, it has been. There's a whole brand new roof on this place. And I put a new roof the previous year at the other place at Windmill Point. So It's something that, you know, we have an awful lot of wind, as you can see today.
Oh, yes.
And my mom was thinking about it'd be nice to put a metal roof, and we talked it over and we said, hey, we really should have a roof that looks authentic for a lighthouse. So we opted to go with the shingle type roof, architectural grade shingles. And so then we worked on that. We're painting right now. If you could look around the corner, you'll see the ladder jacks.
I saw the ladder.
We got our big army truck out there with a boom on it. I use that to put the whirly gig, as we call it, the anemometer and the weather vane and all the flags and the port and starboard light up there.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to light those up too, God willing, the creek don't rise.
Wouldn't any luck at all, eh?
Yeah.
This is a really fantastic place.
Well, thank you.
What a beautiful spot. Lake Champlain in general is a magnificent lake.
It is. It's a great lake, and we're proud to be up here on that lake.
We weren't sure where this road was. Calvin and Judy and myself had never been down this little road on the curve before.
Yeah, a lot of people
I guess you
haven't.
go around the curve and you don't realize the road comes
it's
back
kind
here.
of like it's hidden, yeah.
But there was a whole queue of cars making their way down here tonight, so everybody just had to follow the leader.
Yes.
Yeah, we do have a couple hundred people here at least. I don't know where the singers came from.
Oh well, that's a local group. Nicole Gilbert and some of her friends through Mr. Bob McEwen, who's president of the Historical Society, invited her here tonight to perform, and we're glad that they were able to do so.
That's terrific. Well, when did you know that picture was going to be brought to you?
Well, you know, the people that live down below had talked about it, and we went and visited some friends. I guess it was around Labor Day weekend. A fellow by the name of Ken Bassett. He's into antique boats, and as you know, my dad's into that too. And we went over, and myself as well. I'm interested in boats. And we went over and we're talking to them, and they were there visiting Ken and his wife Claire. And what we did is we told them about the relighting, and they said, hey, we want to come to that. So we let them know, and they said, hey, we got a picture. We've been wanting to give it to you guys. And so finally...
Hold it up again. I want to take a look at it. It's really so beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Look at the geese. Calvin, geese are going by about, maybe 200 geese flying overhead.
Yeah.
Maybe they did that on purpose. You think they got the word?
I don't know.
I fully expect a couple of jets to go by any
Well,
minute.
there was. We had some F-16s, believe it or not, fly by. No, I'm serious.
Oh.
And Bob McEwen and I were.
We knew you had the power, Rob.
Well, thank you. But anyway, so we did have a couple F-16s. I don't know if anybody really knew that there was relighting tonight, but they did fly by earlier. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, that is such. Look at this. Look at the
full moon. Yeah.
Full moon.
I can almost see Neil Armstrong up there planting that flag.
Really? One small step.
One small step, one giant leap for mankind.
You know, that's a classic photograph, and I don't know if these people are professional photographers. I know they're boat builders,
but they did a darn good job as far as I'm concerned.
Just happened to be on the boat that night and waited till the sun was going down and the light
got
came
the right
down.
shirt on, by George.
Oh, look at this. Beautiful. Isn't that the greatest photograph you've ever seen in your life? You can almost see the man in the moon. Neighbors.
Yeah, the Henrys. Down at the bottom of the hill here, yeah.
Gee, that's
There's
really
a man
nice.
right over there. There's the guy who took it.
What a good group we have here tonight. Where's your father?
He's up in the tower giving a tour. I think
Oh, yeah.
I think he came down.
Want to make sure the wires are hooked up for dusk.
My girlfriend here. No, I'm just kidding.
How you doing?
Good.
It's a good night for all those people who have joined us here on the shores of Lake Champlain on the Vermont side. We noticed that some of the local media were here. Again, our special thanks to Jeff Myers and the Plattsburgh Press Republican for doing a very nice story with a photograph of the Isle of Motte Lighthouse just yesterday. I think it came yesterday's paper that would have been on a Friday, October 4th, 2002. Well, we've had the music, and I see most of the cars are already parked, so I fully expect this program will begin in just a few moments. We have a little different perspective here, standing right at the foot of the lighthouse next to the house and not very far from the gathering crowd and the gathering clouds. It's one of those real decent nights. It's a little bit chilly, but not as chilly as it was 2 nights ago when I got down in the 1930s, so Calvin may not have to retreat. Don't go too far away, Claire. Oh, the Lighthouse Digest. Look at this. Ooh, cool. But the clouds offer quite a variety because we have a little bit of sunshine, we got a few clouds, and oh, here, now we lost her again. Why? Because Judy wanted a copy of the Lighthouse Digest. Look, she's hawking them. All right, Claire.
Congratulations on a wonderful, wonderful day.
Well, so at least it held up.
That's right.
We don't mind
that's
joining in
that's
on
good
private
here.
conversations, do we? Not at all. This is hometown cable after all. It's these homebred conversations that make the whole thing worthwhile. Claire,
Yes.
it's great to see you
well,
again.
it's good to see you too.
What do you think so far?
So far, so good. The storm is Lily kept away.
You know, I told Calvin a few minutes ago when I was rounding the corner next to Miners and the rain started hitting the windshield.
Did it? Not
I
here.
said,
We didn't have a
I said,
drop.
you stay right here. We're going across the lake. This is pretty great. You guys have been
Yes.
connected with this lighthouse for a long, long time.
Since 49.
Isn't that pretty decent?
Yes, it certainly
It
is.
takes a lot of work, as Rob said, to get ready for this day, but now it's here.
It's here. It has arrived. It has arrived. And I'm glad. Pardon?
What is that? The
Well, this
Lighthouse Digest?
it's a monthly publication, and it's wonderful. There's no advertisement. It's all stories, all true stories, and there's all kinds of articles in there. It's beautiful. I read it from cover to cover.
Are your lighthouses in here?
But not particularly because they have been featured in here. But
they have?
It's always something different. Every month it's something new stories and new lighthouses throughout the whole world.
You know, as I've said at least 1,000 times today and many times before this, everybody's fascinated by lighthouses.
Lighthouses, I know. They caught on. They've caught on.
Stories and movies and mystique But you guys own 2 of them. How many other people in the world own 2 lighthouses?
The only 2 in Vermont.
I know. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Actually, this is a series. These are 2 of a series of 5 lighthouses around Lake Champlain that will be lit, and the other 3 are on the New York side.
Yes, and they're coming, but I'm glad we were first and second.
Well, you gotta be
Take that
you gotta
away.
be first in line.
That's for sure. The only 2.
Well, isn't it nice to see a big crowd? A lot of your friends, and I bet you a few faces you've never seen before.
Well, maybe my husband knows them, or my son knows them, or somebody knows them for sure.
You guys have been around here for a long time, and
For a long time.
now your sister-in-law lives here, right?
She lives here year round. She makes her home here.
I don't know how big a piece of property this is, but it's bigger than I thought it was when I first came down the
As far
road.
as the eye can see there, and as far as the gate there,
No kidding.
and up to that line right over there, that fence
behind
way
us.
down here.
I see there's a little brick.
That's the oil house. That's where all the fuel was kept when they
Was
had
it
the.
really?
Yes, That's why there's no
Look
window.
this way. Somebody's going to take your picture.
Well, wonderful. Hi, how are you? Another
Absolutely a
friend.
glorious night. Just cool enough so we won't fall asleep before the ceremony is over. I can maybe move your feet up and down.
5:30, but here we are.
Well, we have to wait a little bit to make sure everybody's
Everybody's
set.
settled.
I don't know where your husband snuck off
Well,
to.
you know what? He should have gone in a long time ago to get himself decently dressed, and he's finally got away. You know, he was upstairs with people, and then he lets people go up, and some more people go up. There we are.
So that's the way it is. Well, we'll have our ceremony in just a few minutes. We were handed a program when we came in, and it's going to be very, very nice. And so it should be a wonderful evening.
Yes, it's a nice little program. Mr. Bob McEwen made it up
Bob did?
and did a nice job. Yeah,
That's amazing.
He's the president of the Historical Society here on the island.
That's great. And did you see the photograph that Rob had that your neighbors over here took of this lighthouse? The Henrys who live next door?
Oh, really?
You didn't see it?
The Henrys don't live here.
They live down the road, they said.
Mitigays.
We live down next to the shrine.
Next to the
Oh,
shrine.
next to
they
the
said.
shrine. Oh, yeah, there is a family there by the name of
Yeah, and
Henrys.
they came
Yeah.
in right out in a boat and took the most incredible photograph with
Really?
a
I
full
didn't see
moon
it.
and the lights, the waning sunshine in in the wind,
But
shining
the
on the
Press
windows.
Republican had a nice picture yesterday in
They
the
did, had
paper.
a
That was
nice
a
story
beautiful.
yesterday.
Yeah, but
Yep.
the picture was lovely too. There's old Rob.
Well, he took the picture away. Your mother didn't even see that picture yet.
Yeah, I know it.
Oh, you have a copy for us?
He's got it.
Oh,
He's
that's
got
good.
it. It was presented to him, and you'll see it after a
Oh,
while.
great.
Claire, thanks so much for saying hi to us again. Have a great
Okay,
evening.
Gordy, very good.
Mentioned a few moments ago, Claire did, about the fine program that Rob McEwen has produced for the program tonight, and it's very nice. Inside the front page there is a prologue which talks about some of the things I've mentioned already, the 5 lighthouses around Lake Champlain, 2 in Vermont and 3 in New York State, which will be relit after being dark for 69, 70, 75 years. The talks about the Windmill Point Lighthouse, the other one that's owned by the Clark family. We were part of that with Hometown Cable back on August 7th. The other one's on the New York side, as we mentioned earlier in the program, but we want to let you know they'll be part of the succession, our Cumberland Head, then the famous Valcour Island Lighthouse, which is the only one of the 5 that is not privately owned, but is under the auspices of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and one down in Essex called Split Rock. So it's been a long time since the major lighthouses were decommissioned and the lights were put on poles on metal towers, as you can see next to this one at Isle of Motte. And now the 5 of them are going back, and that's pretty great. So we're delighted to be here. It's wonderful to be part of this new ceremony. And at the end of the prologue, it says, on behalf of the Clark family, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, and the Isle of Motte Historical Society welcomes the folks that are here and the folks who watch this on Hometown Cable Television, and glad that you can be part of this tremendously historic ceremony. Nicole Gilbert and her friends were here. You could hear their music in the background for a long time when the program was about to get underway, and they were terrific. Art Cohn, we just saw walk by from the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. He'll be giving remarks to the folks gathered here tonight. We'll have an invocation, recognition of the U.S. Coast Guard. Bob McEwen, who we just talked about from the Isle of Motte Historical Society, will give a little historical background. And Lucky Clark will be making his inimitable comments, I'm sure, before this program is finished. And Rob Clark, whom we've already interviewed tonight, will be on hand. There will be recognition and appreciation with Art Cohn, Bob and Gloria McEwen, and others. And then, when it's dark enough, we will have the relighting of this now famous Isle of Motte Lighthouse with the school children of Isle of Motte, led by Lois Cameron, the great-granddaughter of Wilbur Hill, the first lighthouse keeper and curator of the Isle of Motte Historical Society. Art will be here as master of ceremonies to make closing remarks later on with the benediction by Reverend Deborah Laporte of the Isle of Motte Methodist Church. And everybody, you know what the last song is going to be tonight? Led by Nicole Gilbert, and I want to sing that one because I remember the words from my youth. This little light of mine. Talk about Sunday school 100 years ago, wherever that was. I know the words, boy. So we're delighted to be here tonight, and we can't wait until this program begins so everybody can enjoy what we're enjoying on the scene through the eye of Calvin's camera and Calvin Vision for Hometown Cable on Isle of Motte at the Lighthouse.
Can everybody hear me all right? What a festival. What a great turnout for a great and historic occasion. Good evening. My name is Art Cohn. I'm the director of the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, and I'm going to be the master of ceremonies tonight, for lack of a better title. And we're all here to experience and witness a really great and historic moment on Lake Champlain. It's not often people get a chance to do this. Now, when all you kids are going to remember this for the rest of your life. That's all you kids. On behalf of the Clark family, the United States Coast Guard, and the Isle of Motte Historical Society, the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, we all bid you welcome. I'd like to thank Deborah Laporte, who's doing multiple service here tonight, for the wonderful music. Deborah and her friends provided the music as we came in. And as we get this program started, I'd like to ask Deborah, who's the minister of the Methodist Church on Isle of Motte, to come up and do the invocation, please. Thank you, Deborah.
I speak in Father Boucher's stead, and if he were here, I think that he would say this. First of all, he would pray. So we shall pray. Oh, gracious God, we thank you for history. It reminds us who we are. That on this very spot, there were men and women, many years past, who stood and lit this lighthouse. There were men and women who stood and children who ran around and worked hard to make sure that dangers were lit so that those coming on the waters of Lake Champlain would not be hurt. Today we carry on that tradition. As Americans, as islanders, we light the light in the darkness that shines out to all to warn of danger, to give the signal of friendship, to give the signals of safety. Pray this in the name of all that is good, and especially St. Anne. Amen.
Thank you. We're gathered here today to witness and celebrate the relighting of the historic Isle of Motte Lighthouse. This northern point, known as Blanchard's Point for an early Lake Champlain mariner, provides one of the most historic perspectives on Lake Champlain. From this point on Isle of Motte, you could have witnessed Native American travelers. And just down the coast a bit, the French established the first European settlement in what was to become the state of Vermont. That was in 1666, when a French regiment under the command of Captain de la Motte arrived here and began their incursion into this part of the world. Related to that event, since we share our history in this valley, New York and Vermont and Canada together, the town of Chazy has its origin in the same 1666 regiment. Another captain, Chazy, was hunting and fishing in that part of the world when he met with an ambush, was killed, and so became the name of those rivers and that community just opposite of Isle of Motte. During the War for Independence, there was an incursion here. Benedict Arnold was patrolling the northern part of the lake just prior to his October 11th battle on 1776 with the British. And on Isle of Motte, several of his men were ambushed by a British party and killed on this historic island. And a little known Isle of Motte history: during the War of 1812, Commodore Thomas McDonough was actually patrolling and anchored off this northern point. He was a frequent visitor to this island, as were many of his officers, to the tavern of Caleb Hill. And in an accident, we're still not exactly sure what happened, Caleb Hill was killed by one of McDonough's lieutenants in a nighttime accident. Caleb Hill, who was a ferryman, a tavern keeper, and one of the leading citizens of Isle of Motte of the day. As the British moved into the preparations for the Battle of Plattsburgh Bay, they actually mounted a fortified post on Isle of Motte to protect their flanks. There was a ferry operating from Isle of Motte from the earliest times. Of course, it is an island. And from the east shore to Alberg, there was a ferry that operated until 1882, when the first bridge was built where the causeway now stands. And there was a ferry that operated to Chazy, New York, until 1936, when the Rouse's Point Bridge was completed. In 1823, the opening of the Champlain Canal connected the waters of Lake Champlain and the Hudson River, and the resulting commerce created an explosion of maritime activity up and down the lake. By the middle of the 19th century, Lake Champlain was entering the height of its commercial era, and it was estimated that in a navigation season, if you stood here and counted, you would have counted over 3,000 sloops, schooners, canal boats, and steamboats passing this point north and south. Isle of Motte produced its fair share of lakemen, people like William Montgomery and his sons, the Fleurys, the Naylors, the Goodsills, the Hills, and the Sweets, were all active mariners who operated vessels that transported people and cargo into and out of the valley. Eventually, the Lighthouse Service realized that they needed a dependable system of lights to guide these mariners safely, and the light we see today was built in 1880 and will be further discussed in one of our later speakers. This prefabricated tower and light did service for Lake Champlain mariners for more than 50 years. But in the 1930s, with the Depression upon us and the maritime activity on Lake Champlain severely decreasing, the Lighthouse Service, now part of the U.S. Coast Guard, was seeking a less costly way to provide aids to navigation. And they began building steel skeleton towers to hold automated lights to replace the light keepers, and the Isle of Motte light was retired in 1933. The lighthouses on Lake Champlain were declared surplus property and sold to private citizens. It has been the good fortune of the lighthouses on Isle of Motte and Windmill Point to come into the hands of the Clark family, who have caretakered these two historic lights for more than 50 years. The historic Windmill Point Lighthouse had been dark for more than 70 years when just this August 7th, it became the first historic lighthouse to be transformed into its intended purpose, a mariner's aid to navigation. With the relighting tonight of the historic Isle of Motte Lighthouse, these two northernmost lights will once again provide aid and comfort to mariners. It is now my great pleasure to introduce First Class Boatswain's Mate Kevin Irwin, representing United States Coast Guard Station Burlington, and who runs the buoy tender you see and really maintains all the aids for navigation on Lake Champlain. Kevin.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. The state of Vermont and all affected communities should be proud to realize that tonight our great Lake Champlain is about to make history one more time. Lighthouses are returning to our lake after more than 50 years. The shining beacon is a signal of our safety and our stability to all who use our waterways. The lighthouses provide us a sense of security to the mariner who may not have all modern day bells and whistles to navigate the lake. This lighthouse will assist all boaters the ability to return to port even after daylight has faded. This is the second lighthouse to be relit this year and is a symbol of great pride and the realization of dreams. Cumberland Head, Bluff Point, and Split Rock Lighthouse will be soon to follow. Thank you.
It's now my great pleasure as a longstanding member of the Isle of Motte Historical Society to introduce the co-president of the Isle of Motte Historical Society, who really had so much to do with organizing this event, getting the programs ready, getting all the materials here that we needed. I'd like to introduce Bob McCune, co-president of the Isle of Motte Lighthouse.
Thank you, Art. It's wonderful. You're all here. It's great. And Art is already giving you a sketch of how important this waterway was. I sometimes think we ought to write a story that if lighthouses could talk, because this one is certainly sitting on one of the most important pieces of water in North America. And you wouldn't know it for the jet skis that go by now, but it was a key part of the history of this country. And this lighthouse was one of the more important parts of that linkage. There were 10 lighthouses on Isle of Motte, on Lake Champlain, and there are 5 of them that are presently scheduled to be relighted. And we're fortunate that Lucky has taken such good care of the 2 that he owns, Windmill Point and this one here, because they are the first 2 to be relighted. I'd also call attention that of the 10, there were 4 in Vermont. And the other very well-preserved lighthouse, I'm sure many of you all know, is at Shelburne Museum. And that was the one that was on Colchester Light. So we have, of the 4 of the 10, there are 3 of them that are in very, very good condition. I wrote out, so I wouldn't have to do all the talking about some of the history of this lighthouse. About 1830, there was a lantern being hung down its Sandy Point, and then later on up in the stone house that you passed as you drove in here on Shrine Road on the top of the hill here, they hung a lantern in the window. It should have been more visible. And then finally they built a little stone pedestal out here and put the lantern on the stone pedestal. And then finally this lighthouse was built, as Art said, in 1880. And then in 1933 it was abandoned. The light was abandoned, and the light was moved over to that steel tower that you see behind you, and that's where it's been ever since until today. And 79 years later, we're now moving it back into the original tower, which I think is a very significant thing. We're also fortunate to have the fog bell here, so that's an interesting feature. It says here that the kerosene lamp, which was up in here, was 5 feet in diameter, a big 5-foot wick. Okay? It had to be trimmed every day. Kerosene was stored in the brick building over here, and there was a reflector. It was a fixed light. It didn't blink. It was fixed. Another interesting, very interesting point about this light and the one on Windmill Point is that they are lined up on the safe navigation passage heading north. So everything that was coming out of Canada, everything coming up from the fledgling United States and the early United States, passing here, would put this light on the stern, Windmill Point on the bow, and proceed between them, turning before you get to Windmill Point, presumably, so you don't bump into it. But nevertheless, you then miss the reefs that are very evident out here at low water on the right, and the reefs that are very evident on the low water on the left. So this has a unique characteristic there. I think Lucky is going to say a few more words about things like that, and Rob will too. I hope you indulge me a little personal comment. How many lighthouse lovers do we have here tonight? Yeah, a lot of them. Well, I think I number from that because about 45 years ago, I walked up to the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Somebody's here from North Carolina. Who are they? Yeah. And there I met Gloria, my wife. About 16 years ago, we bought a vacation home up on Windmill Point. And we were the only house there except for the lighthouse. Wandered down to the lighthouse, met Lucky and Rob, and so we've been friends ever since. And now we live on Isle of Motte, and we've got another wonderful lighthouse. Thank you very much, Art.
Thank you, Bob. We're really all guests here tonight of the Clark family, and it's fair to say that this event would not be happening if it was not for the will, the drive, and the dedication of the Clark family. And they have been stewards of these two lights for more than half a century, and it was really their vision and hope that someday these lights would be relit that has led us to this historic moment. It's now my great pleasure to introduce the patriarch of that family, Mr. Lockwood Lucky Clark.
Thank you very much. You do my nose. It's quite a pleasure to have all these folks here. I never thought there'd be so many. Thank you all. And now let me see. My dad came to Isle of Motte in the early part of the 20th century. We had the first camp next to the St. Anne Shrines. My dad bought this, it was an old boathouse. He bought it from Nelson Chist. And they moved it up, they put it in the water, they floated it up the lake. Old Bill, honest builder, they brought the boat up, the house up. So we put it up on the land, and the priest next door, the father, why can't you put that boathouse a little further north? So we did that. And that building today stands right where it was all those years ago. It's a little small camp, wonderful camp. Now, during the early years, we became quite friendly with the fathers of St. Edmund. And they used to come over and spend many hours with us, talking about politics, religion, whatever happened to be the topic of the day. Well, as time went on, there began to be a lot more camps down along the lake shore. So one day my mother said, gee, it's kind of nice to be like we used to. What are we going to do about it? So Mr. Stanhope owned the property. And we asked him if there's any way we could buy a piece. Well, he says, don't worry about it. We'll arrange it. Well, he died. So the war came on. Well, before that, I must tell you a little story. We had a boat. My mother and dad had a beautiful boat. It was all mahogany. And we used to go around the island. The island is 7 miles long and 3 miles wide. So roughly 30 miles around the island. Well, we were out with our family one day. It was a beautiful day. And we got at the south end of the island, and a hang of a storm come up. Well, by the time we got back home, or back to our camp, we had all kinds of trouble. And the boat went broadside. We couldn't get our mooring. So we held that boat out. The family all got out of the boat. We held that thing off. And my dad said, hey, you better go up and see if you can get the fathers to give us a hand. So I run up. Nobody was at the dormitories. So I said, maybe they're over in the dining hall. So I went to the dining hall. There they were. Would you please come and help us, Father? We're in trouble down there along the lake shore. My dad's boat, mother's boat, going up on the shore. What did they do? They got right up from the tables. They came down there in the uniform that they were with. They jumped in the water and they helped us. That was nice. Oh. Well, as the years went by, more houses came out down there. So one day we heard my sister was in the dentist's office, of all places. And the dentist says to her, he says, would your father be considering buying the Isle of Motte Lighthouse? My sister said, well, talk to him about it and see what he had to say. So the next day we went over to Burlington, Vermont, met Nelson Hill. Nelson Hill and his wife, Margaret. Very, very nice couple. And we decided at that time we're going to do anything, we'd better buy it. So we bought this place. And ever since then, we've had some wonderful times here. And I'm going to turn it over to my son. He'd like to say hi to you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Isle of Motte Lighthouse. It's great to see you all here and on this windy evening. The wind's even calming down a little bit. What do you know about that? We only had a couple of hurricanes blowing by, so we've been really fortunate that we have a decent night here, considering it's October. And some of my earliest memories are of being here at Isle of Motte and growing up, and spent a lot of times and going fishing, but I know you don't want to hear the fishing stories, you want to hear the ones about the lighthouse. So, when I was a kid, I dreamed about that lighthouse as being my moon ship, my rocket ship. And it was back during the time that they were going to the moon. And matter of fact, we were here in 1969, and we went down to a friend's camp. Norma Benicio, she's out in the audience. Where are you, Norma? There she is. We went to Norma's grandparents' place, and this was camp. This was a camp for us. It was not winterized or anything. We just stayed here during the summer in the good weather. And we went down to Norma's grandparents' place. We didn't have no TV back then or anything. and they had a nice black and white down there. So we all went down, and we watched Neil Armstrong take those first steps onto the moon, and that left a great impression on me. And so, like I say, I always dreamed of this as my rocket ship, and in a way, you know, some of you have been up there, and you can see where maybe it could be a rocket ship if you use your imagination a little. So anyway, over the years, I realized that, you know, there's more to lighthouses than meets the eye, and they're of great importance to guiding the mariner. And a lot of people have said, why relight a lighthouse? Especially in this day of age of global positioning satellites and modern technology. But why climb the highest mountain? Or for that matter, swim the deepest sea? To that there's an answer. We choose to light these lighthouses. We choose to light both of them. And do it this year. Not because it is easy, but because it is hard. It's a challenge that we are willing to accept, and one that we've been unwilling to postpone. Now that the torch has been lit, we will pass that torch to our friends and neighbors on the New York's side. And we wish them the best of luck, good luck, and Godspeed with their relighting endeavors. Yeah, I hope you'll forgive me because my speechwriter's been on vacation, so. I've always believed that there's should be a great reverence for the past, and I really think that I'd like to remember the people that came before us and worked on these lighthouses. My grandfather, Robert C. Clark, who bought this place in 1949, and a man who would later become my uncle, who bought the other lighthouse at Windmill Point the same year in 1949. And although these two men didn't know one another at the time, their goal was the same, and that was to refurbish the lighthouses and take care of the land and take care of everything that had to be done to keep the elements from deteriorating them. And it's largely in part to their efforts. They paved the road for Dad and I to follow so that we could continue on and make this relighting a possibility. So, like I say, there's a lot of different emotions here, a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. It's hard to really put it all in words and make it come out right. But I wanna take a little time now, and in my zest last time, some of you were at the relighting at Windmill Point. I neglected to thank a person who did a lot for us, and that's Mr. Art Cohen over here. And I'd like you all, if you would please, join me in a round of applause for this fine man. Thank you very much, Art. We really appreciate your help. Thank you. Also, I'd like to, while I'm thanking people, I want to thank Mr. Bob McEwen. That program that most of you received, hopefully all of you received tonight, was done by Bob and his fine wife, Gloria. They put a lot of work into that, and they did a great job. Thank you very much, Gloria. Thank you very much, Bob. So, like I say, there's a lot of different emotions here, and you know, in a way, when I was a kid dreaming about my starship here and my transporter pad and my time machine and all that sort of thing, in reality, it does bring a person back in time, because when I was working on that tower and putting that pedestal up there in place and doing all that sort of thing, polishing the brass, I was actually going back in time 70-some years to when the lighthouse keepers were there and doing the same thing. And I can't help but think the pride that I feel now that they must have had when they were taking care of that light. Because back during that time, it was when their job was to guide the boats down through that channel out there between Windmill Point and Isle of Motte. And of course the ships went down, you know, to Washington and all other parts of the country. And if they hadn't been careful and kept that light lit, a lot of those ships may never have made it to their destination. And so, in a way, the efforts of Wilbur Hill and Bill Grant, the last lighthouse keeper here, was in part, they were able to do something for our country to make it what it is today. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody once again for coming, and I want to say Viva Isle of Motte Lighthouse. Thank you very much.
There's the descendants here of the original lighthouse when it was started. I believe it's the James Irish family. Are they any of them here?
Granddaughter here. James
All right.
Irish. We've got a granddaughter here.
All right. Stand up and be recognized. I think there was another lady who was a descendant of Wilbur Hill. Lois Cameron. Is she here? Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.
Thank you. And while we're recognizing some important people with connections to this lighthouse, is Betty Christie. Betty Christie, another great-granddaughter of Wilbur Hill. I'd also like to just mention tonight the selectmen of Isle of Motte who are here, Jim Senesac, Richard Lebrecht, and Chet Bromley. John Duffy, former president of the Vermont Historical Society and an Isle of Motte resident. Jim and Irma Streeter, who are here representing the Lighthouse Societies, and particularly the Avery Point Lighthouse Society in Connecticut. George Clifford, who has written a wonderful book about the lighthouses of Lake Champlain, an illustrated guide to the historic beacons. I recommend it to all your attention if you have an interest in these lighthouses. It's always an honor for me to recognize Captain Merritt Carpenter, the Lake Champlain Transportation Company historian and mariner for more than half a century, and my personal mentor. Ray Sargent, representing the Shelburne Museum. Dorothy Pickard, a good friend and daughter of Julian Rockwell, who used these lights to navigate on Lake Champlain, as did the rest of the Rockwell family. James Irich's relatives have already been mentioned, descendants of lighthouse keeper Bill Grant. And now I'd like to ask Bob and Gloria to come up to make some special presentations.
I think you can hear me. This is something we really love to be able to do, and that is to give a certificate of appreciation for contributions made in the town of Isle of Motte for historic preservation, given to Lockwood Clark and his supporting family, Claire, Rob, and Erica Bayer, by the Isle of Motte Historical Society. And it continues, given on this day, Saturday, October 5th, 2002, at a relighting ceremony of the Isle of Motte Lighthouse, made possible in large measure through the efforts of Lucky Clark, who had the foresight to recognize the historical and architectural significance embodied in the Isle of Motte Lighthouse, and the generosity to act on the preservation of its historic past and value to future generations and to the town of Isle of Motte, Vermont. Thank you very, very much.
I'm going to do a birthday party tonight. This lady and I were born October 6th. going to be 84 years old. That's a darn shame. But here I am.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lucky. Happy birthday to you.
Don't run up yet, I can't top that. On behalf of Coast Guard Station Burlington, we have two hats we'd like to present you. As the front, you can see it, U.S. Coast Guard Station Burlington, and on the back, we have Lighthouse Keeper.
Oh, all right.
Also, I have the light from the old skeleton tower behind you. I'd like to present that for you, so you can have that for display here at the Lighthouse.
Very, very nice.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Just wanted to add, Mr. George Clifford over here, a good friend of ours. He's done a lot for Lake Champlain. He made the first guide for the Lake Champlain lighthouses. He has a few with him. If any of you are interested, please see George, and he'd be more than glad to accommodate you. And thanks all once again for coming.
Nice to have you meet George Clifford.
These are the best keepers I've seen, and they've been keeping it up for really 100 years of light keeping already. And we just hope that they do that in the future. And I wanted to not present this to you. I want to tell you what this is. It's an official U.S. Lighthouse Service oil measure for whale oil. And in the old days, when you were up there in your starship, and
That's right.
You're warp 10, Scotty.
After you added the whale oil, you could get whale oil yourself.
That's right.
Good luck and congratulations for such a wonderful job that you've done.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Thank you.
And now, folks, the moment you've all been waiting for. If I could ask Lois Cameron, the great-granddaughter of Wilbur Hill, the long-term light keeper here, to come forward. Okay, please.
Art told me I could talk until it got dark. It's dark enough. He introduced me. He introduced Betty Christine. He forgot Gary Hill, who is coming from Glens Falls, another great-grandchild of Wilbur Hills. My daughter Sharon is here. Betty's daughter and grandson are here. So we have a lot of Hills. So if Betty and Gary would come up, and they will help me count down. And all the kids can come up. All the kids. No matter how big you are.
All the kids should come up forward now. You're going to help us light this light.
Magic.
Come on now.
What a wonderful idea, isn't it? Huh? We're all kids at heart, aren't we?
Do you think we can move the microphone for this whole thing?
I wonder.
I don't think we need a script. We'll start with 10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
No, it's from a distance. You can take
Folks, I'd like to ask Deborah LaPorte to come back up to do a benediction for us. This wonderful historic moment that we've all shared together. Thank you, Deborah.
Every generation makes its mark on the world. You can make an ugly mark, or you can make a good one. And tonight we've all been part of making a beautiful mark, saying that our history is important, saying that in this little town and in this year when we face such overwhelming dangers, new dangers, We're saying that in this town and in this place, we stand for the simple and good things. We're working on things that are beautiful and safe. Help us be safe and be good people. So tonight I just want to say a prayer of God of thanks and to help us to be courageous in the small ways of our lives. Let us pray. Oh, gracious God, I thank you that you have given the Clarks courage in the small ways of life. I pray that you might give everyone here today courage in the small ways of life, that we might make this world a beautiful place. The world, our little corner of it, our little Isle of Motte. We thank you for courage. Amen. Oh, choir, come on. And let's all sing the song. And I'll shout out the words. Here we go. Ready? You know the song, right? Ready? Come on. You know it? This is light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. And then the second verse would be here in Isle of Motte, I'm gonna let it shine, and then all across Champlain, I'm gonna let it shine. Ready? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Here in Isle of Motte. Here in Isle of Motte, I'm gonna let it shine. Here in Isle of Motte, I'm gonna let it shine. Here in Isle of Motte, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All across Champlain, here we go. All across Champlain, I'm gonna let it shine. All across Champlain, I'm gonna let it shine. All across Champlain, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere we go, everywhere we go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere we go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere we go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I just want to thank you all for coming and sharing this wonderful event, this historic event with us, this great reflection on Lake Champlain and the history that enriches all of our lives. Again, like to thank the Clarks, the Coast Guard, the Isle of Motte Historical Society, and on behalf of the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, thank you for coming and drive safely going home. Thank you.
Well, Calvin didn't get the camera on time. I want to know if you jumped when the cannon went off,
Yes,
Betty
I
Christie.
did. Yes, I did.
So did we all. I can smell it right now. There's nothing like the smell of gunpowder. And that beautiful Mariner's Bell,
I know.
isn't that a wonderful sound?
Absolutely wonderful.
I
yes.
just want to know what this whole thing means to you.
It means a lot to me to know that my great-great-grandfather was the first lighthouse keeper over here. And my grandfather, Edward Hill, was a lighthouse keeper on
Windmill Point?
Windmill Point.
Oh, I didn't know that
Oh,
either.
yes, yes.
I'm learning all kinds of stuff here
Yeah,
tonight.
my father lived there when he was going to school in Ross's Point. They used to walk across the ice to go to school in the wintertime.
Isn't that
Yeah.
wonderful?
Mhm.
What's your name?
Jason.
Jason.
This is my
Are-
grandson.
Are you having fun?
Yep.
What do you like the best?
When they lit the lighthouse.
Wasn't that cool? Doesn't everybody love
Yes.
lighthouses?
Yes, yeah.
Especially you with such a family history.
I
Where do
know
you
it.
live?
I live in Ross's Point and Palm Bay, Florida.
That's not a bad combination.
No, no.
In case nobody told you.
Right.
When are you heading south?
Next week.
Right? When the first frost gets here, you'll be on the way, right?
I'd go tonight if I could.
You know, I have nothing personally to do with lighthouses except to love them like everybody else does.
Right.
Everybody shot their hands up tonight when that question was asked.
Right.
But for you, it must be just incredible.
It is. I love them.
Have you visited over here often?
This is the first time I've ever been here.
Come on.
Yeah. It's the very first time.
And you too? I bet maybe you might come back again.
Well, we just might. But, you know, isn't this all private property?
Yes, it is, but the Clarks would love to have you
Yeah.
come here anytime. They're very gracious people.
I know they are.
And isn't it wonderful to see that not only you and Calvin and myself for our little corner in Hometown Cable, but hundreds of people.
I know.
Many of whom do have a direct connection with the lighthouses on Lake Champlain.
I love it.
Now, you've always known that, and you never visited this spot?
No, but we used to go to the other one all the time.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Well, it's wonderful to meet you. I just wanted to
thank you.
say hello. You're a little tiny lady, and I didn't want you to get lost in the crowd.
Well,
Thanks
thank you
so
very
much for
much.
sending on.
Okay.
Have a wonderful winter down there in
Thank
Palm
you.
Bay, Florida.
Right, thanks.
See you later, man. Well, now that we got 2 lighthouses under our belts, I don't know what's going to happen. Bob, what do you think about this day? Isn't it pretty neat?
It's very historic, and of course it's 1 year older than when the light was removed. I wasn't born, and so when you see, and this one will burn long after I'm gone, and many of these children will be old. So it's very historic. You only do this once in a while.
The little kids loved it. When you said how many people love lighthouses, did you see the hands that went up all over this place?
I know.
We asked one of the little youngsters who's related to the original lighthouse keeper, what he liked best about this whole day. He said, when they lit the lights.
Oh, isn't that something?
That's a little guy
I know.
who will remember it, as you said, 75 years from now, he'll remember what happened on October 5th, the year 2002.
Exactly, and that's what we wanted to do. And we wanted to make it an intimate, everybody could get up close and see what we were doing here.
This, I know how much you love history because I know how much you're involved in the history of Isle of Motte.
Yeah.
Calvin and I do this kind of program every week, trying to capture some of the historical moments. And the tapes we make, we play back over and over again as time goes on because they become then historical. And this is a moment that I will treasure as long as I live. These lighthouses are beautiful in general, but Lake Champlain is one of my favorite places in the whole wide world, and to capture a little piece of history and, as you said, actually go back in time.
I know.
To the 1930s and put a light in the top of the lighthouse again. When the cannon went off and the bell began to ring, I wasn't sure I didn't get a lump in my throat.
I know it. I was standing up there, and to look out on this water and to have the lighthouse behind you, it brings a lump to you. You feel emotional about it, and I'm sure a lot of these people here do. They have an emotional feeling for these lighthouses.
How close do you live, Bob, from here?
Oh, a couple of miles, just on the other side of the Isle of Motte. We moved up here from Washington, D.C. and we.
Did you really?
Oh, yes.
Like when?
Oh, we had this as a vacation home for 10 years, and I used to work for the U.S. Geological Survey, and so it was just a wonderful thing to meet the Clarks and to get involved with history of Isle of Motte. It's almost my adopted town, my adopted family up here, because it becomes a community that you can identify with.
I know lots of people who are transplants from the Washington D.C. area who come up here, and it's like a magnet. It draws you back, and your wife's got a birthday tomorrow.
Well, my wife and Lucky have the
Lucky's got the same birthday tomorrow.
I know it.
He says I'm 83 tomorrow, and isn't that a shame?
And my wife didn't say how old she was, and I won't say either.
Some things are better left unsaid. You know that, Bob?
There you go.
So let's talk a little bit about your interest in history. How has that always been a thing with you to study history, or how'd you get involved here?
I don't know. You come into a small town like this, and one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden, I think you adopt the community. And we moved into an old house, and then you have to find out about the old house, and then you find out about the people, and then you find out about other people, and then you find out. And then all of a sudden, there you go. You're just immersed in the history of this little area. And it's it's a history you can grab hold of. A lot of history is so big and broad, but right here on Isle of Motte, you can talk to Lois Cameron, you can talk to people, and all of a sudden it becomes very personal.
This is a very special place for a lot of reasons, and I don't mind telling you that the first time Calvin took me to the St. Anne Shrine,
yes,
I was almost overcome with the overwhelming feeling that I was in a special place. but not just on those grounds, but everywhere in Isle of Motte. I mean, you can the history almost beckons you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And of course, there's other things here, too. There's the oldest reef in the world, and there's the fact that the British had their headquarters here, and we have the oldest quarry in the state of Vermont here. Things like that are part of the history of Isle of Motte, which are very special.
Now, did you retire from business to move up here? Or?
No, I work for the federal government, for the U.S. Geological Survey.
Now, that should make perfect sense to me. You still do?
No, I retired.
Oh, you did retire?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought maybe you were doing it while you were up here.
No, I retired a few years back. And,
so you were born and brought up in the greater Washington, D.C. area?
No, I came from New England, Massachusetts, and, one thing, New Hampshire, upstate New York. It just felt like coming home to move up here. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about small towns. Okay, there's a lot to be said about small towns. And all I can say is you city folks, eat your heart out. If you haven't been to Isle of Motte and you're watching this on television, you better get here.
Well, okay, but we may pull up the drawbridge somewhere along the line.
Bob, thanks so much for your caring for this area, for your comments tonight. They were well taken.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, your name is Erica. We talked about you even though you weren't outside.
Well, I don't dare to go out.
I know. What do you think about this whole thing? Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. I'm sorry that at least it wasn't blowing like heck.
No, I heard you had a little wind yesterday.
Ooh, yes.
Were the waves coming up over the side there? I heard the ferry boats had a little trouble getting across the lake.
I heard too. I heard somebody that had gone over and they said, oh boy, they were sorry they went.
I bet you that's the biggest crowd you've ever seen back here, huh?
I guess it is. I don't know about Windmill Point, though.
Well, we had a bigger crowd here tonight.
You think so?
You outdid them by maybe 50 or 60 people.
No kidding. I don't. It's hard to believe.
I was trying to count them, and I think I counted, I'll just throw a number out, 222.
Oh, my God.
But they were just wonderful people. And what do you think about everybody singing This Little Light of Mine? Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
So you've been over here for how long?
Well, I've been living here since 1984, I think.
Have you really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a great place.
It is.
It's a great place.
And last winter, I didn't have to plow out have my road plowed out.
Oh, you didn't really?
We had so little snow.
You never know about...
Oh, I know it. I know that.
They tell us it could be a warmer year, but that means more precipitation. But you know what? The weatherman or woman, whichever the case may be, can do whatever they want to do. And there's not much we can do about it.
That's for sure. That's
so
for sure.
At
least you had a good day. I mean, a good evening.
Oh, this was
It
perfect.
wasn't blowing like the devil or it wasn't raining. And I was so afraid it was going to rain. But
look who's hiding in the back there. Just look who's hiding in the back there. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Finally made it.
Isn't this fantastic? Again? You thought we did it all the last time, but we did it even better this time around.
I'm very, very thankful that it turned out you got a nice crowd of people.
You had a couple of pretty good stories to tell there. I never heard that one before.
Right.
Well, you know what? Isn't it all worthwhile?
Oh, it sure was. And, it's a tribute to the people of Isle of Motte, really.
What a group of people. What a nice... We just interviewed Bob McEwen.
I was really surprised. Where the heck is Rob? He's always like
we talked to him before we started at great length, but you were up on top of the lighthouse.
Go right in there. Go.
I'm waiting for Claire.
Go right in there.
Then your wife made you go home and put different clothes on. Aren't you glad you put a little jacket on tonight?
Yeah, I'm glad.
Got a little breeze coming through here tonight.
Hey, Sandy, come here. Over here. Go on, I want you to get you in here. Come on, Sandy.
He's just trying to get somebody else.
He's my only relation I got. Come over here.
Oh, yeah?
Come over here, Sandy.
The only relation you got?
I got it right here. This is...
Sandy, how are you?
Hi,
Gordy Little,
Sandy.
Calvin Castine.
Nice to meet you.
This is pretty cool, isn't it?
It's very cool, yes.
It's cool outdoors, too.
Too cool.
But you know what? It warms your heart to see, I counted over 200 people here tonight.
Oh, I imagine it must have been.
With the singers and the whole thing, it was just turned out perfectly. Everybody had the good comments to make. What pleases me to see so many relatives of people who were involved in these lighthouses that came from some pretty far distances to
we
be
had
with
some
us
people
tonight.
from North Carolina here this morning, and people out from Colorado.
How could you remember all those names? You were looking out there. I could
You
just see
can't
your head
remember.
say, what the, who was that lady that I was supposed to mention?
You did a fine job, and he always was a great raconteur.
Oh, a
He has
raconteur,
not
is
been
that
a-
what he is?
Yeah.
And wait a minute. Happy birthday tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 84 years old. Holy smokes.
84, I thought you too, Sandy. I thought you said you were going to be 83 tomorrow. He said 84? Oh, okay. I was a little bit confused. You see, I already said hi long before. You were going to put clean pants on when she said hello a long time ago. Well, anyway, don't you wish you owned another one so we could do it again?
Let me tell you something.
What?
Anybody that buys lighthouses has got to have a hell of a lot of money, because they are expensive to maintain and to keep them looking the way they should be.
It's hard work. I know how
very,
much
very,
putting a new roof on here and getting all set for the day, getting the grounds looking
That's
good.
right. Did the same thing over at Windmill last year. You know, it's been a costly
Everybody
thing.
thinks, well, if the government wants to give me a lighthouse, I'd take that, but they don't realize that they have to maintain it.
That's right.
If they got it, you make an agreement to maintain it.
That's right. All the Coast Guard does is just take care and change the bulbs and put new glass in if a bird flies in or something. But the rest of it is all work that
That's
we
a
do.
nice hat you got
Yeah,
tonight there.
did
The
you notice
lighthouse keeper?
Did you notice I threw the other one off?
I saw you trying to stuff it in your pocket. Well, it's wonderful to talk to you. I know that it's getting dark. I think the light showed up a little bit better when it came on than the last one did tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the lighthouse is shorter. By how many feet is this one?
This one here is 30 feet. Now, they're both the same height off the lake. The other one's 45. You see, it all depends on the focal point of the light is above the lake level.
See, I
That's
never thought of that.
That's right.
That's a clever mind of
that's
yours
right.
that would bring that up.
That's
'cause I wouldn't
right.
dream that.
That's what makes the difference in lighthouses.
Isn't that
Right.
great?
Yeah, it is. It's different.
Have you done anything to the actual inside of the lighthouse, or is that pretty much the same?
Inside hasn't been done much. We did a lot of work upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been up there yet?
No, I haven't been
Well,
up there.
We'll take you up. Maybe you can take a look at that. We'll see what's going. Come on, let's go over there.
We'll do it. Thanks, Luck. It always dawns on me that I look a lot better at this time of night on television. It's, what time is it? It's about 5 minutes after 7 on the 5th day of October 2002. A little bit of sunshine on the horizon across Lake Champlain in the west. The Isle of Motte Lighthouse is lit and will be, we hope, for eons to come. We've met many of our friends, people we've never known before. We've met some new folks who came here, just live around this area and decided to come to see what it was all about. We've met some people who've written books about Lake Champlain, people who are involved in the history of lighthouses on Lake Champlain, and just plain folks who wanted to see what it's all about. Best of all, we had a bunch of little kids here tonight who will never forget. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. We'll never forget what lighting this lighthouse is all about. It's a pleasure to be here for lighthouse number 2. Next in line, and I don't have any timetable for you tonight, will be the Cumberland Head Lighthouse, then the Valcour Lighthouse, and then the one down in Essex at Split Rock. I don't know exactly when it will be, but you can bet that Hometown Cable will try to be there. We thank you all for watching our program day after day. We thank you for all your generous comments about the things that we do. We urge you to make new ones if you have any suggestions about what you'd like to have us talk about and take pictures of. Please call Calvin or myself. You can find us. We're just too big to hide. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.
Our scene has shifted here. We are adding a footnote to that tape you saw on October 5th, 2002. We're back here on October 22nd. The Clarks have just raised the flag, and I think I'm going to impose on Lockwood or Rob to ring the bell here. We kind of missed the ringing of the bell at the official ceremony. I'm ready. Here we go. The cannon, we had a cannon that night. We also missed that. Did the bell outside of making a lot of noise serve any actual purpose for the lighthouse, or is it just something you like to hear?
Well, it's for fog signal, you know. When it was that they couldn't see, they could hear the bell back in the old days. That was the idea of it.
So would they blow their foghorn and then you respond, or is that you couldn't stand there and ring that bell all day?
They'd hear this and they know the direction from where it was coming, see?
So how often would he have to ring it?
Depending upon the conditions of the weather, whether it's foggy or not.
I mean, when it's foggy, would he be ringing it?
We ring it every... I can't answer that one. You know, occasionally, every 5 minutes maybe, or less. God only knows.
We know that the mechanisms that they had on the ocean were like a bell, for a clock mechanism, and it was wound with weights, and the weights would work the bell, and it would work off just like a clock would.
Like a grandfather clock.
Right,
sure.
Same idea, because on the ocean you got a lot bigger body of water with a lot more fog that you wouldn't have on the lake. But here we had, each station had a bell certain places if they had fog where it's coming in. I know the Colchester Reef Lighthouse had a bell because it was right out in the middle. So it varied depending on their location on the lake.
Okay, I thought you guys would know that since you're wearing the official lighthouse keeper hats.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And here we missed out on our tour inside because it was awfully dark, and there was a lot of people in there. So Lockwood invited me back. Lockwood and Rob invited me back. And one of the things I noticed in here today, guys, was the construction of this lighthouse. It's built in sections, huh?
Right. As far as we know, up in Bath, Maine, Bath Iron Works, they used to do a lot of the castings for the lighthouse service. And back during that time, they were experimenting with, different things that they could do make out of cast iron. And so what they did is they had it almost like a rector set. They had some of these lighthouses where Dad's standing now in the doorway on some of the other lighthouses would be a window there. And there would be extra sections down below for extra height. And like I said, it's interesting to note that this lighthouse is being built on Isle of Motte is cast iron, and the one at Windmill is all stone. And the fact that they quarried the stone from this island and built that makes you wonder why they did it. But like I say, there are a lot of theories, and I think that they were just getting into this type of construction, and they wanted to see how it would prove out, I suppose. And it was built a little later than Windmills, so.
And it obviously it'd go up a lot quicker if you just bolt these sections together.
Exactly. And
stones.
Yeah, and another thing too is that they didn't need the height here because we're sitting up on an almost 20-foot bluff, so it didn't have to be as tall as Windmill Point Lighthouse. If you'll note, Calvin, if you look closely, you'll see some of the square nails that they use for shims, to shim the joints between the sections.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and those are square nails, so that kind of gives it away in terms of the time frame. Yeah.
Now you've also got a very nice looking sign that unfortunately you no longer hang out, but that was a very nice sign.
Yeah.
All right, it says Clark, and is that it's a dragon?
Family coat of arms from the way back.
Well,
Before they had lighthouses, I guess.
Well, you've been dragging since I've known you, Lucky, so that's very appropriate, I guess. Okay, we're going to head up the stairs to the next level. There's what, 2 levels besides the bottom?
Right, there's the second level and the top level, which is the lantern room itself, on the second deck, if you would.
All right, we're going to shut the camera off and pick up again on the next level. All right, here's where we came from, and there's kind of porthole windows up here, and you kind of have to watch where you are walking. And I got to tell you, Lucky, when I came up here in the dark, and some guy was up here with a couple of people were up here with little kids, and I was a little afraid.
Yeah, I'm thank God that everything turned out all right too, because they weren't supposed to have been up here.
Right.
You know, we supposedly had people down there to watch things, but God happens. God only knows what happened.
Well, they tried to be a nice guy, and so you can imagine this being pitch dark, only a little bit of flashlight, and somebody standing right about where Rob was, with somebody about 2 years old, and that dropped just inches away. So that's one reason why Gordy and I decided, well, we'll come back at a later date. We're going to go up to the next level, and I see there's portholes in the floors.
That's my transporter pad from Star Trek days. When you get up there, you'll see exactly what I'm saying, because it really does look like the pad from the original series.
So maybe they kept their idea from here.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, those are what they call a lighting hole, and what it does, Calvin, is allows light down on this second deck, so it's not so dark. It's nice, and as you can see, it's
very well lit with the portholes up there,
yes.
and the lights from above.
And we believe that, especially on the ocean, they had what they call a watch room, which was right below the lantern room. And the keeper obviously wasn't going to run down 100-some flight of stairs, every time he had to go up there and work on that light. So what he would do is he would stay on the lower deck, especially on a stormy night or something. And he wouldn't have to be running back to the keeper's quarters. And so we do have a little cot here,
just to show what
somewhat of what might have been. We're not really sure because it's so long ago. We don't have any actual pictures to know what it was like, but we assimilate it the way we think it's possibly might have been.
Okay, and you can see from the center of the ceiling here, again, the construction, how it's all bolted together. And what holds it up? the center of the ceiling.
It's just the friction of the pieces together on one another,
Like a bridge?
Like a bridge structure, right. You can see the gussets are quite thick, and it actually interlocks. One section interlocks with the other. So it's well engineered.
All right, so we go to the next level?
Get over here and take a picture.
Now this particular lighthouse, Calvin, when they decommissioned it in 1933, for some reason that pedestal was all removed right down to the floor level. You can see the new shiny bolts, because that's all stuff that we had to build in order to make this possible, make this relighting possible. And fortunately, at Windmill Point, they left the old stand in place, so we patterned this one off the one at Windmill Point, and now we've got it back in place, as you can see.
Okay. All right, we have the lights view of the area. That's what's directly across from us.
That's you can see the water tank in Shazy, the new water tank that they built.
Okay, over that way.
Right, and it's what is it? Is it Castine's farm or?
Yeah, the Castine brothers, the former Edgar Castine, Dooley. It was a Dooley farm and Edgar Castine family.
Down where the Shazy rec park is. If you take that little road there, that would come out down where that farm is.
Right.
Give you some
That's
idea.
The little Shazy River,
Right, the little Shazy River too, over there. You know what they call the Singing Bridge. We can when the weather's right on a clear night, you can hear that the cars going across on the grading over there.
Ah.
And of course, then you look over. You can see. Actually, I can see. Being I'm a train buff, I watch the Amtrak and some of the freights go across over there, between those farms, and you can see some of the main straightaway between Ross's Point and Coopersville.
Yeah, it's the Lake Shore Road we're looking at over there.
Right. You can see the 9/11 tower in Champlain up near the dump, up near the convenience station, as they call it.
It's not too far from my house.
Yeah.
I can't quite see it though. Is it just barely visible? You can see a little, about in the center of your screen, you can see a little thing sticking up in the air. That's the tower on the Ridge Road. And I don't see it somewhere to the right. Rob says are the Christian radio station towers. And where's those geese? There they are. The geese are over here. That little white speck is a streak. There is actually geese, and then back there is your tower back in the village of Champlain. Right. So you kind of lose perspective here. You would think the village would be more northerly from this angle, but that's Point of Fair.
Right, Point of Fair. A lot of people confuse it for an island because from here it does look like an island.
And
Kings Bay, of course.
Yeah, beyond.
Yes, and then of course looking over, you can see the new bridge, or Korean
Veterans Bridge. Yep.
Ross's Point Bridge, as we call it. And
yep.
You can also see the old fort.
Yep.
And you can see Windmill Point, of course.
And yeah, the lighthouse at Windmill Point is also, so you can send signals back and forth.
That's right. Instead of smoke signals, we can send light signals. They wink back and forth at one another now.
Okay, and here's the view from up here. And of course, seeing a lot more than we would have seen at night, of course.
Right. See the water tank, also the new water tank in Elberg, that blue dome over there. Yeah.
There's a new tank in Alberg, Vermont. We're on Isle of Motte, right at the tip, somewhere in this area. And on July 4th, 1609, a guy named Samuel Champlain came wandering through and camped here somewhere in this island. And who knows? This is kind of high here. We assume it's down by where the St. Anne's Shrine is.
Right, where the monument is. That was carved at Expo 1967.
Yeah. Okay, it's nice and chilly up here today. The sun belies the temperature. The railing isn't all that high, so I'm staying as close as I can to the center of the lighthouse here. We got Lockwood overseeing everything here, making sure nothing goes astrew here. Okay, anything else to see while we're out here?
Well, yeah, we can see our solar array that we set up during the summer on the south side.
Here's the solar panels. This is what actually runs the light, right? Recharges the batteries?
Right, this is working right now. It's charging the battery that's on that stand right behind Calvin. And it's a 20-watt panel, 22 inches square, and it provides enough current to charge up the battery during the day. Even on the cloudy days, we still you get pretty good charge, even though a clear day like today is by far superior.
Now, did you have to install it yourself, or did the Coast Guard install it?
No, Dad and I installed it, and as a matter of fact, this whole framework, we built all of this in my shop. The framework to hold it, we did, the only thing that they supplied was the panel itself and some of the wiring. Some of the wiring we provided as well. We also did all the conduit, did all the bending, all the connections. Like I say, this is all the framework to mount it on here, because obviously this lighthouse was run on kerosene. It didn't need any solar power back in the 1800s. So we had to design that ourselves as well as install it.
Okay, now the main reason for the lighthouse is people heading from the south, heading north?
Right, when you're heading north, you see the lighthouse, you get into the channel out there. Once you're in the channel, the boats will put their bow on the Windmill Point Lighthouse, and the stern, of course, is looking backward on this light, and it guides them through the channel so that they can get successfully up into the northern part, going to the Richelieu River. And then, of course, when they're proceeding in the opposite direction, going south, they want to look for this light so they can then pick the channel up again and guide them back through, going on the southern trip down to Lake Champlain.
Okay, you have a nice view of Lion Mountain from here, and Ellenberg Mountain off to the right. Is that? I'm not quite sure which one of those is Whiteface. Would you know offhand? The tall one in the middle.
I think the tallest one, yes.
That's probably Whiteface.
Snow on it, probably that'd be it.
Yeah, I know. I can see the very tip of Whiteface from my home on the Ridge Road in Champlain, and I would guess that might be the taller one of those there. Beautiful day, picture perfect day. but the temperature's a little bit on the breezy side.
The next lighthouse going south from here would be Pointer Rush Lighthouse, which is one of the sisters to the Windmill Point. It's a very, very similar construction, a little bit different lantern room, but basically the same kind of stone. And of course the Cumberland Head one would be the next one down from that, and that's more of a round type instead of an octagonal type tower.
And the plan is to light 3 more of the lighthouses in the near future. Any idea time frame? Have they given you any time frame?
No, we haven't heard anything more about when they're hoping to work on it sometimes in the early spring, hopefully.
Okay, and obviously without the effort that you and your father put in, this would not have happened this year.
Well, I don't think it would have.
Just in case you get the impression that, may have had the impression that all the Clarks did was show up and get their picture taken, here's this pedestal that they built that this light sits on. And you just saw the rack outside that the solar power panel sits on. So this is all built by the Lockwood and Robbie Clark, and the light sits on top of it. And there's the conduit with the coming in from the solar panel.
See, these right here, Calvin, are the original ventilators. Now, when this light was being run by kerosene, the keeper on a windy night could cut the amount of draft, amount of air flowing through the chamber would sit here, the reservoir, and the wick, of course, it was a lantern, and then of course you could control the amount of air flowing through there on all these different ventilators. And of course the air would pass through and it would go up through the very peak and it would vent. That would act as the chimney, and that's what they call is known as a bearing ball, and that's where the vent was for these. Also, you might notice these little clips right here. During the daylight, when this lens was in here, it was all glass, so it was like a big magnifying glass. You remember when you were a kid, you'd go out and you'd start fires. Well, this would happen, and in most of the places today, of course, it's a lot of houses where this field is now, but in the old days, it would set fire certain times of the year or certain places, so they'd have to have a curtain all around here. And of course, also, too, they have to keep, everything had to be polished. The inspectors could show up at a last minute drop of the hat, no notice type of thing, and they'd have to have everything looking sharp and clean for them, otherwise they'd get demerited. So
yes, for the youngsters out there, the lighthouse keeper lived on the premises, and that's where he was 24 hours a day. Do you have any idea, Lucky, if these guys ever got a day off? I mean, did they get a chance to go visit their in-laws once in a while? Or?
Well, they did. I think every so many days they always had a second keeper.
The assistant keeper,
and he would take over, whereas the other one could get a little break. But it was a long ways out there, and it must have been real hard living out there in that country in those days. I know I never wanted to be one of those people, that's for sure.
It's certainly a lonely job.
Yeah,
especially the ocean. People that were on the ocean lights were, they were out there miles out at sea, not just, a half a mile or a few thousand feet like on the lake. These are all small lighthouses and not as tall. Imagine climbing that 100-some feet.
No, I can't.
And carrying that 2 5-gallon pails, I guess, of kerosene is pretty heavy, and then having to trim the wick and and keep all this glass clean. And like I say, do all the rest of the maintenance work. Those guys really worked. They earned their few $100s a year. I think it's like $600 a year that they averaged their salary. Big money for those days.
Well, they got a great view.
yeah, that's right.
A room with a view.
Bridge benefits. Yeah.
Okay, here's a sheet with some pictures of the progress. To the left here, you had to cut out on the bottom here. You had to cut all those out.
Right. These are all the pieces, the disc to make the base and the top section. And there's also, this is a part for Windmill Point, because we had to make adapter plates to go to what they call the modern optic, the new light, because the way the pedestal was set up, it was for the old Fresnel lens, the old 6-order lens. So these are all the pieces that go into making this stand right here. this is the whole thing in its entirety being completed. Not been painted, of course. And this red light on here is a 300 millimeter light, and that was just strictly for test purposes for getting the bolt patterns and so forth. So
and we have to point out that this was all done at your own expense. I think we've mentioned that already, and
correct, yes.
Coast Guard didn't chip in a penny to help you out here, did
That's
they?
right, yes. So that gives you some idea. I also have...
did this older guy get in the way, or was he help? Was he just between us here, Rob? Nobody else will hear.
He was a big help.
Okay.
There's the solar panels in their framework, and they each are different because the railings are different. This is the one for here at Isle Motte. You can see the way it's set up, and this is the one for Windmill. Like I say, the way the railing is, it has to be accommodated for. And those are the new lights, the 300 millimeter lights, which you see.
Okay. And again, for those of you just joining us, we're at Isle Motte, the Lighthouse, just recently relit in here 2002. It's October 5th, one day before Lucky Clark's 63rd birthday, was it? Or 39.
Jack Benny's here.
How many 39 birthdays
84,
have you had?
84.
84 39th birthdays. How about 45 of those? And this is one of two lighthouses that they own. They also own the one on Alberg, known as Windmill Point. So anything else, gentlemen?
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure being with you, Calvin.
It's been my pleasure, and we're going to close this show that started almost 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago now. I guess.
Yeah, the crowd subsided, and
we figure over 300 people were here.
We figure well over 300 as far as we know, yeah.
Okay, do you guys wear your official Lighthouse Coast Guard caps only when you're here on duty, or?
Only when we're on duty, yeah.
That's right. Got to keep them clean.
There's the back of it right there.
All right, lighthouse keepers. All right. Thank you, Robbie and Lockwood Clark. And we've been at Isle Motte on this 22nd day of 2002 in October.